see. Can too much biotin cause panic attacks? David wants to know. Haven't ever seen that. And I've used, very regularly in people up to 16,000 micrograms to correct deficiency and not yet seen anyone suffering from a panic attack. But, I would say this, if you're taking higher doses of biotin and you're having panic attacks, and when you stop taking it, if your panic attacks go away, that, the proof is, so to speak, in the proverbial pudding. But no, it's not a common side effect that I can say I've seen in people. Let's see. Does Tegretol cause low biotin? Not to my knowledge. Another one that I can't say for certain. That's one that has been shown in medical research to cause biotin loss. Does zinc deficiency affect biotin absorption? I mean, it can. I have to understand that zinc is so integral, Suzanne, for gut function and for gut health. You need zinc to make the finger proteins in the GI tract that are important for digestive enzyme production in the GI tract. So zinc is a very important nutrient, not only to seal the gut, but also in digestive enzyme production. Let's see. Chris wants to know, are there any synergistic vitamins to antagonists? Not sure I understand your question. Maybe reword it for me. If you're talking about, are there other nutrients that work synergistically with biotin? Absolutely, there are. It's called the B vitamin complex for a reason, because all the B vitamins, when together, will work better than when in singular high doses. Oh, I love this one. Heather says, I keep reading how biotin can affect thyroid blood work results. Yeah, so if you're taking high doses of biotin, it can give you a misinterpreted reading of your thyroid result. That is absolutely true. So again, if you're taking biotin on your own your endocrinologist who's prescribing your thyroid medication doesn't know, you make sure that they do know so they can monitor your dose accurately and get you an accurate dose without that misrepresentation of reading. Let's see. Keep going.
That's on Facebook.
Okay, let's go to, does biotin help with a yeast overgrowth? I would say not so much. What helps with a yeast overgrowth is there are about 3 different key core things that need to be done for yeast overgrowth. And one of them is to starve the yeast. And the way we starve yeast is, number one, absolutely zero alcohol. You're not going to get rid of a yeast overgrowth as long as you're drinking any form of alcohol. Number two, you have to starve yeast out. Yeast thrive on fermentable carbs. And so you want low I put people on what's called low fermentation diet, where we're giving them low levels of carbohydrate that are fermentable so that we don't allow the feeding of the yeast. And so you want to starve the yeast, right? And so no alcohol, and then no really heavily fermented carbs or sugars. Beyond that, you need to create competition for yeast. And generally speaking, what that means is making sure that you have a healthy microbiome or a good population of healthy bacteria, because bacteria and yeast kind of compete against each other. Remember how we discovered antibiotics was through a form of mold, right? Penicillin mold created a substance that would basically kill bacteria. It's because these two combat with each other. They kind of compete for the same resources in your GI tract. So if you have a healthy level of healthy bacteria, it naturally is a barrier for yeast overgrowing. So probiotics for some people works really well in that regard. I generally, if I find somebody with a yeast overgrowth, I'm also testing their microbiome to make sure that we know what probiotics to use and how much to use. Additionally, flushing them out. So yeast can be flushed out. There are a number of different protocols that can help with that. My advice, though, if you're going to do something like that, get with a good doc and do it under guidance. So the big things that you can do for yeast is, again, create competition for it. Don't feed it. And potentially there are many antifungals naturally that can be taken through food. Things like garlic and oregano are great natural antifungals. Let's see. Donna says, I mentioned seizures. My friend had breast cancer, and after the chemo, and taking tamoxifen, she now has seizures. Doesn't surprise me. Do any of these drugs cause biotin deficiency, or is it most likely caused by something else? I'm sure there are many possibilities, a lot of possibilities, but generally with chemo and tamoxifen. So chemo is going to create or deplete B vitamins in general, but particularly vitamin B12 and folate, which is, remember, B12 and folate are necessary to produce myelin. They're also necessary to form acetylcholine, serotonin, and dopamine. So when you deplete those B vitamins, you actually can create neurotransmitter imbalances that could potentiate seizures. We know B12 deficiency can do it. We know folate deficiency can do it. So that would be where I'd tell your friend to ask their doctor to look first. And then tamoxifen, that's another one. I know a lot of ladies are taking tamoxifen after the breast cancer as a tool to reduce their risk, and they're told to take it for anywhere from 3 to 5 years after the chemotherapy. Look, the fact of the matter is tamoxifen, there's some research now coming out that shows that tamoxifen induces autoimmune disease. So, again, I'm not telling you not to take your tamoxifen if it was prescribed, but you certainly should have a conversation with the prescribing doctor about that risk, because it's a serious risk. Let's see here. Does biotin play a role with oxalate metabolism? Yes. Acetooxalates and some of the others, it can. David wants to know, is biotin a fat-soluble vitamin? No, biotin is water-soluble, as are all B vitamins in their natural forms. How is biotin affected by cooking? Generally speaking, you get some loss of activity in biotin, but it's relatively heat stable, so not terribly so. When you cook it. There's a lot of raw foodies out there that say, oh, the vitamins are destroyed by heat, and that's not true 100%. There are certain vitamins that are not as heat stable, but biotin is relatively heat stable. What's the best test for biotin, and what is an optimum level? Well, the best test for biotin is intracellular analysis, looking inside the cells themselves to see whether or not they're storehousing adequate biotin. Let's see. Yeah, so the question about biotin and thyroid tests coming up again. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea to before you get your thyroid testing done, to get off of your biotin for several days, maybe even a week or so that, remember, it's water soluble. It has a relatively short half-life, and you'll knock it down just by discontinuing it for a week enough that it shouldn't affect your thyroid result. Okay, let's see. So Acetal wants to know, any role in nerve repair with vitamin B7? Of course. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very crucial for fat metabolism. Remember, biotin builds and breaks down fat. And what is myelin produced from? Myelin is the fatty substrate that surrounds or insulates nerves. And so biotin plays a major role. That's why it can create, deficiency can create ataxia and nausea, but a major role in nerve function as a result of fat metabolism. Can biotin be taken at bedtime without sleep interruption? Yeah, it's not generally. Biotin's not one of those like B12, for example, or B1 or B2. Those ones can tend to like bump up your energy, and taking them before bedtime or really even before 4 p.m. can make it harder to get some good restful sleep. So, but biotin doesn't tend to do that. So it's one that generally is taken well in the evening time without that bump. Let's see. So somebody's asking about IV biotin, and you could do. I mean, get with a local doctor who does IV infusions, and you can ask about it. Generally, biotin is not used in super high amounts unless you're on specific neurological protocols. Wanda wants to know, when you use a B complex vitamin, aren't the doses of each much less than what you could take individually? Yeah, generally they are, depending on the B complex. Most B complexes, focused on like 50 milligram doses of a lot of the B vitamins, or 20 or 30 milligram doses. But yeah, I mean, especially as it relates to biotin, most B complexes are relatively low dose biotin, and they don't hit the super mega therapeutic ranges. Gabriella wants to know, my vitamin D is 30. Does it mean I'm at risk of having biotin deficiency? No, your vitamin D and your biotin are not related directly. There's not like a causal relationship between vitamin D deficiency and biotin deficiency. So your vitamin D is low. You need to probably get more sunshine and possibly supplement. But it doesn't necessarily cause biotin deficiency. Can H. pylori infection affect B vitamins? It absolutely can, Wendy. H. pylori damages the gastric cells. So we think about H. pylori and its effect. It damages parietal cells in the stomach. Parietal cells secrete intrinsic factor and hydrochloric acid. And when you lower acid, remember what we said about biotin a minute ago. Achlorhydria or low stomach acid can contribute to biotin deficiency, but there are other B vitamins that also require acid to be properly absorbed. And so again, if H. pylori is damaging those stomach cells and reducing their capacity to produce properly, then yeah, that absolutely can. Linda wants to know, if you take B12, can you also take a B complex, or will that overdose the B12? It's an individual basis, Linda. I mean, because it's such a broad question. I mean, overdosing with B vitamins is kind of a hard thing to do. That doesn't mean it can't be done, but they're relatively safe even at higher doses. There aren't a lot of, I mean, outside of vitamin B6 does have some toxicology data, meaning that people can become toxic in vitamin B6. It's one of the few that actually can create a neuropathy type of symptom if taken in too high of doses. But the other ones are so safe that there's generally a relatively no to low toxicity on using them. But again, that doesn't mean you as an individual might not have a reaction. I do see some people that react to them regardless. So it's just one of those things. I'd say if you're taking high doses or trying to take multiple things, you get with your doc and really maybe first get a test that tells you whether or not you even need those things. Wendy wants to know, does pastured liver contain biotin? Yes, it does. And the other Bs, yes, it does. So liver, we're talking about pasture-fed or grazed animals, yes, contain lots of biotin. Again, liver is the number 2 kind of food resource for biotin in the diet. Leaky gut. Does having leaky gut increase the risk of biotin deficiency? Yes, it can, but it also, I mean, a lot of again, leaky gut can be caused by a number of different things. And so generally, if the damage is great enough, and the damage is also occurring to the brush border, then yes, you can increase the risk for the development of a biotin deficiency. Okay, let's see. Can low biotin cause psoriasis? Not so much psoriasis. Psoriasis is an autoimmune condition. I mean, generally speaking, psoriasis is an autoimmune reaction in the skin, and there are 4 predominant triggers for autoimmunity. And that, you know, if you haven't heard me talk before, you can go check out the Autoimmune Revolution, autoimmunerevolution.org. And I give about a 2.5-hour presentation on autoimmune disease and the triggers for autoimmune disease. But psoriasis, very simply put, is an autoimmune condition that has, generally in my experience, 4 different categorical triggers, being nutritional deficiencies can be one of them, and that includes, you know, biotin, but also food as a trigger, chemical exposures as a trigger, and microbial imbalance is also a trigger. Marie wants to know, is taking biotin supplements counterproductive for Hashimoto sufferers? No, it's not. It's not counterproductive at all. Again, it can just cause some misleading lab interpretation, but it's not counterproductive. Just like iodine, somebody with an iodine deficiency who doesn't have Hashimoto's or doesn't have positive antibodies, they can still take iodine. It's not contraindicated for them to take iodine for their thyroid function. But remember that higher doses of iodine actually can cause a false elevation in TSH. So it's kind of like that. You want to just be careful if you're taking high levels of micronutrients, that you let your doc know who's monitoring that, and that way they can take that into account or have you fast from your nutritional supplementation before you actually do the lab work. Does biotin have anything to do with ITP? ITP is idiopathic thrombocytopenia, which is a form of platelet disorder. Not to my knowledge. I haven't seen any research that correlates or connects the two. Doesn't mean we might not see it in the future. Since surgery in January, Shelley wants to know, how can you keep from getting a rash by the incision? You know, if you're getting a consistent rash, have it looked at. I mean, you know, you want to be very careful if the incision site is not really cleaning up and you're having a consistent rash, there may be an infection. So I would first and foremost go make sure you have it looked at and make sure you have it tested, possibly even cultured, to make sure there's not an infection, because that could turn into a nasty ordeal. Let's see here. JJ says, I use a liquid methyl B complex and also add some extra niacin, biotin, and B12. Does that sound okay? I'd be very cautious about the liquid methyl B12s. The ones that I've ever looked at, and I've looked at hundreds of different formulations, generally tend to have corn derivatives in them. So if you're following the no grain, no pain diet and the no grain, no pain lifestyle, that'd be a bad idea. To my knowledge, my company is the only company in the world that makes a true grain-free, non-corn derivative form of methylcobalamin. Ours is a lozenge, and it's named the very same thing. Methylcobalamin is what it's called. Let's see here. Donna said, I had B6 toxicity years ago, which caused neuropathy, so I can confirm that. Thanks for chiming in, Donna. Yeah, I mean, B6 is one of the few that can, one of the few B vitamins that can cause a toxicity. All my B tests are high. Do I still need to take them? If you're talking about your lab tests, your serum lab tests, it depends. If your doctor checked your serum levels of B vitamins, know that that's not a real accurate representation or accurate in terms of knowing whether or not your body is deficient. So again, I would say if ask for the right test. Intracellular, not serum levels. Serum levels can look high after you take a supplement. You could pop a B12 right now, go take your serum levels, and they're going to come back artificially high. So anyway, hopefully you take that to heart. Chris says, please make an audible version of my book. I have an audible version, Chris. Head on over to Amazon. There's an audible version. There's also one on CD, so you can grab it either way. But yeah, it's Simon & Schuster Touchstone. So just look up No Grain, No Pain when you go to the Audible store. You should be able to pull it right up. Lickety split. Okay. Are there any blood tests that biotin? So we mentioned that already, Cheryl. Yes, thyroid tests can come back mixed and skewed as a result of high dose biotin. Is low biotin a culprit of depression or mood disorder? It can be, David. Biotin deficiency can cause depression again, as we talked about earlier. Neuropathy, depression, ataxia, all potential symptoms of biotin deficiency. Gabriella says, no grain, no pain is awesome. Thanks, Gabriella. I really, really appreciate it. That was 2 years. Actually, it was more like 18 years of work that went into the book, experience and everything, but 2 years to write. So I appreciate your kind words. Okay. Somebody says, my mom bought me that book. I need to read it. Yeah, I agree, Shelley. Go read it, because if you show up every Monday night for the show, and you have kind of the knowledge that's in No Grain, No Pain, and then you show up for the show, you're going to take a whole lot more out of the show. You're going to take away a whole lot more information. It's going to be a lot easier to understand if you have No Grain, No Pain as kind of your background of information to start with. All right, it looks like we're low on time, folks. We are right up at the hour. I want to make sure that any of you listening tonight, if this is your first time on the Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain Show, come back and visit us again next Monday night. Also, make sure, if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And once you hit subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications. We'll send you a notification every time we're getting ready to go live. That way you never miss a show, never miss an episode. You also, once you subscribe, you'll be notified when new videos are up. We put out about 7 to 10 videos a week. And so I want to make sure you get access to all the information that I'm trying to put out there. And if you are so inclined, please type in your feed right now, hashtag save 100 million lives. Not a million lives, 100 million lives. This is our goal. This is what we're trying to accomplish and achieve. And I really, really need your help in paying this knowledge forward to people who maybe aren't tuning in yet that need to find the show. Very important that we spread this message of light and hope and knowledge so that people can go demand the best from their doctors and have intelligent conversations with them, or find doctors who are willing to have those intelligent conversations. Additionally, come visit the new Gluten-Free Society. That's glutenfreesociety.org. We've just released a new update on the site. There's a lot of new, very robust features that you're going to find very helpful, including a new interactive cookbook and a new video section where you can access a lot of our archives and a lot of our shows, as well as a community you can come be a part of and join. And if you're looking for more help going gluten-free, sign up for our newsletter. It's the largest gluten-free newsletter in the world. with over 250,000 subscribers. We are here to support you. We're here to serve you. So make sure you take advantage of all these wonderful free resources that my team and I have put together for you, and make sure you pay it forward. The only way that we can afford to continue to do this is if you help us spread that message. So until next week, wishing you excellent health. This is Dr. Osborne. Good night. Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.